Heartwarming revelation. Manager exposes incredible bias. Cancels 4.5B deal for inspiring CEO. Emma Sullivan stood behind the counter of her small cafe, the Maple Bean, pouring steaming cups of coffee for her early morning customers. The comforting scent of freshly baked pies filled the air, mixing with the laughter and chatter of friends gathering to share their lives. It was a place where community thrived, and Emma poured her heart into each cup. But today, the news buzzing through the cafe brought unsettled chatter and widened eyes. A tech giant was considering acquiring a promising startup for an eye-watering $4.5 billion, and the excitement was electric. Little did they know how the undercurrent of greed and prejudice would ripple through their town. As Emma watched her regulars' eager expressions, a feeling of unease tightened in her chest. The CEO of that startup, Marcus Rivera, was known for his tenacity and innovation, but whispers of his background tainted the excitement. Marcus, a brilliant mind from the city, faced mounting bias from the wealthy board supporting the acquisition. The way they joked about him, how they rolled their eyes at his humble roots, it made her stomach turn. Emma felt a fire ignite within her, lighting up every fiber of her being. Her own struggles as a single mother pushed her to look deeper, to see the truth behind the glimmer of wealth. Coffee cups clinked as she served them with a forced smile, but inside she was wrestling with the implications of the deal. It wasn't just about money, it was about values. And standing by, letting prejudice win, was not an option. She felt the weight of her children's future crashing down on her. The cafe was their home. Everything she did was to keep them safe and sound. How could she allow greed to distort what she had worked so hard to build? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined to take a stand, Emma confronted the board manager one afternoon. Her heart raced, palms sweaty, but she strode into that boardroom like a lion, ready to roar. This isn't just a business deal. It's about a man and the dignity he deserves. The room fell silent, eyes wide with disbelief. She fueled her words with fervor, laying bare the injustice she had seen creep into their tight-knit community. Their faces changed, some flushing with shame. Others masked their discomfort but couldn't hide their apprehension as her voice echoed in the quiet space. Emma realized this wasn't just her battle anymore. It belonged to all those who felt marginalized, to all who struggled for acceptance in a world eager to dismiss them. When she walked out of that meeting, she felt the eyes of her town on her, from the cafe to the local diner. Some supported her bravery. Others questioned if she was risking their prosperity for a cause that felt larger than herself. The clock ticked down, and everyone held their breath in anticipation. Yet, as Marcus's story came to light, an unexpected twist unraveled that challenged everything Emma thought she believed about justice and community. Would they unite to embrace love and loyalty? Or would deep-rooted biases keep them blinded? The battle was just beginning, and Emma stood at the precipice, uncertain of the path ahead. Would she rise to inspire her town or falter under the weight of expectation? The answer lay just beyond the horizon, waiting to be discovered. The following days were a whirlwind for Emma. Word of her confrontation spread like wildfire through the tiny community, igniting conversations in homes, offices, and the bustling sidewalks. Patrons who once breezed through the Maple Bean stopped to chat, some expressing encouragement while others voiced their concerns. Emma was no longer just a cafe owner. She had become a voice for the voiceless, however uneasy that made her feel. Marcus's face often appeared on their phones and screens as news outlets picked up the story. Startup CEO faces unjust bias, the headlines screamed. She watched as people began to rally around Marcus, sharing his story and accomplishments. There was a glimmer of hope, a collective pride in standing against prejudice began to grow among her neighbors. But with the support came doubts. Emma heard mutterings at work, whispers laced with uncertainty. What if the deal falls through? What's going to happen to us? The anxiety hung heavy. For every person who stood with her, there seemed to be another who feared for their livelihood. One morning, an elderly woman paused at the counter, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her coffee. "What you did was brave, dear," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "But this is a small town. What if we lose everything?" Emma's heart sank. She wanted to reassure her, to tell her that they were fighting for something greater, something worth risking it all for. But the truth was she didn't know if it would be enough. Emma spent nights tossing and turning, worrying about her kids, her cafe, and the community she loved. She felt torn. The urge to protect her family battled against the desire to stand up for what was right. On one particularly restless night, she found herself scrolling through social media, her small-town circle alive with debates about Marcus and the board's decision. Her fingers hovered above the post button as she thought of what to say. Finally she typed, "It's about more than a deal. It's about empathy, respect, and the dignity every person deserves. Let us not forget our humanity." She hit send, her breath hitching in her throat as she wondered about the repercussions. The next morning the cafe buzzed with a different energy. Emma could feel it the moment she walked through the doors. A palpable sense of connection had formed among her customers, a shared understanding that they were part of something bigger than themselves. Couples held hands tighter, friends embraced longer, and a few even brought their children into the cafe, inviting them to imagine what a world united in respect could look like. Suddenly, the doors swung open and Marcus walked in. A wave of gasps swept through the cafe. He was the embodiment of resilience, his presence igniting a spark of courage in everyone. Marcus walked straight up to the counter, his expression warm yet serious. "Emma," he began, his voice steady, "thank you for standing with me. Balance is essential in a world so skewed. This isn't just about me. It's about every one of us." As he spoke, Emma felt tears prick her eyes. She realized she wasn't alone in this struggle. The battle for acceptance wasn't only Marcus's. It was theirs, their community's fight against ignorance and bias. Just as everything felt right, Emma's phone buzzed, a notification from a news outlet announcing an unexpected twist in the acquisition deal that could change everything once again. She felt her stomach drop. What more was to come? Emma's heart raced as she looked around the cafe, the faces of her friends and neighbors suddenly appearing uncertain, a mix of hope and dread in their eyes. Would they crumble under more pressure? Or would they rise again together? The truth awaited on the horizon, and it loomed ever closer. Emma stood frozen at the counter, staring at her phone as the headline blinked aggressively at her. She felt a rush of emotions: fear, anger, and beneath it all, an unshakable sense of determination. The community had come together in ways she had never expected, standing behind Marcus like a wall of support. But what would this shockwave mean for them now? The air in the maple bean thinned as murmurs erupted from every corner of the cafe. She could feel their eyes on her, anxiously waiting, as if she held the key to a door they all wanted to open. Taking a deep breath, Emma stepped out from behind the counter, holding up her hands to quell the rising tide of anxious conversation. "Everyone, please." Emma's voice held steady though her heart raced. The cafe fell silent. "I know this news is startling, but we can't lose hope. We've come together before. We can do it again." As she spoke, something shifted in the room. A young mother with her baby in a sling nodded, her eyes shining with a fragile strength. The elderly woman who had questioned Emma before now had her hand resting on her chest, as if trying to calm her own racing heart. "Look at us," Emma continued. "Just a week ago, we were strangers behind counter dividers and tables. Now we're friends fighting for each other. We cannot be divided by fear." And that's when Marcus stepped forward, tilting his chin up in resolve. "Emma's right. This fight is not just mine. It's ours. We're standing for more than a deal. We're standing for what is right." His voice rang through the cafe, weaving through threads of uncertainty to reignite their flame of hope. Someone in the back clapped, a hesitant sound that grew bolder as others joined in. Gradually the cafe erupted into applause, a chorus of solidarity echoing off the walls. Emma felt tears slip down her cheeks, a mix of relief and gratitude flooding her heart. They were still together, and for now that was enough. But then Emma's phone buzzed again, pulling her from the warmth of the moment. The notification brought another layer of news, pushing aside the warm desire to celebrate. The acquisition board had issued a statement, claiming they were reassessing the deal amid the controversy. Tension rippled through the cafe, conversations halting as everyone processed this new reality. "Emma?" Marcus's voice was low, but she saw the concern etched across his features. It was a question, an unspoken plea for clarity amidst the chaos. I don't know what will come next, she admitted, her heart heavy. We have fought so hard, but there's still a long road ahead. As the atmosphere in the maple bean shifted from hopeful to uncertain, Emma felt an unmistakable bond with her community. They had laughed together, cried together, and now they stood on the brink of change. What mattered most was not just the outcome but the journey they shared. She took a step back, her gaze sweeping over the faces gathered before her. Whatever happens next, we're not backing down. We have to stay united. We've built too much to throw it all away now. The café erupted in encouragement, phrases of loyalty and courage mixing in the air. Emma felt empowered by the voices around her, each word stitching them closer together. Yet as the applause carried a wave of determination, she couldn't shake a feeling of dread. What if unity wasn't enough? What if their collective strength couldn't change the course of fate? As conversations began again, a thought lingered at the back of her mind. Would they find a way through the storm, or was this just the calm before an even greater tempest? The door swung open and a reporter arrived, pen and camera ready. Emma's heart raced. The storm was already here, and they would face it together. But was the world listening? Would their voices truly be heard? She gripped the counter tightly. The answers awaited them, but they were out of reach. For now. The chatter faded again as the reporter began snapping photos, her camera capturing the raw emotion filling the café. Emma squirmed slightly under the intensity of the moment, feeling more exposed by the second. She could only imagine the headlines in the coming days, a blend of support and tension, of hope and uncertainty. Is your community rallying behind your fight? The reporter called out, her voice brisk and eager. Emma took a step forward, heart thudding in her chest. This was the moment she could use to amplify their struggle, to make sure their voices echoed beyond the coffeehouse walls. Yes, we are standing together stronger than ever, she emphasized, glancing at Marcus for reassurance. His eyes sparkled with pride, and it gave her the added confidence she needed. This isn't just about one person. It's about all of us wanting to be heard and treated fairly. We deserve to be recognized, not just as patrons but as valued members of this community. The applause returned, this time layered with a sense of urgency. Each clap felt like a heartbeat synchronizing with Emma's rising determination. She felt the warmth of their solidarity surrounding her, lifting her spirits higher than she thought possible amidst the uncertain storm brewing outside. Are you prepared for backlash? The reporter pressed, capturing every ounce of her reaction. Emma hesitated, a moment passing like a slow wave pulling back from the shore, revealing the hard rocks beneath it. Backlash is inescapable when standing for what's right, she said, the truth falling from her lips like a prayer. But we will face it together. Because that's what community means. She saw the flickering confidence among her fellow patrons, the way their shoulders squared and breath steadied. They were in this together, and together they could challenge the shadows looming over their café and lives. Emma, can you comment on the board's decision? Another reporter shouted, diving into the swelling tension. Her heart sank slightly, yet the anger that fueled her voice ignited again. This board has no grasp of what our community represents. We're not just another deal on a spreadsheet. We are real people with real stories. We are hungry for change, and we won't be ignored. The moment she finished, a loud cheer broke out, mixed with shouts of agreement and unabashed support that felt like a warm surge of wind through an open window. Emma looked on, invigorated by their ferocity. It was like watching a tide rise, carrying her hopes with it. But then doubt crept back in. Would the board truly listen? Would their united voice be enough to impact this giant move that loomed overhead? As the reporters continued to fire off questions, each one felt like a new storm cloud gathering in the distance. Emma wanted to smile, to reassure her friends that everything would turn out okay. But her insides twisted with a flicker of fear. Some days the fight felt monumental, impossible even. Outside, the sky darkened, thick clouds beginning to stretch overhead. The air grew cooler, and the distant rumble of thunder echoed some ominous truth that she couldn't quite name yet. Emma glanced back at Marcus, who gave her a determined nod as he sensed the shift in her spirit. Whatever happens, we face it together, he whispered, almost as if he could read her mind. She squeezed his hand tightly, feeling the strength radiate through his grip. Together she echoed softly. As she turned to face the gathering crowd, the clock ticked loudly, every second a reminder that they needed action, not just words. They needed their message to reach the board, to resonate, to shake them from their silence. Emma sensed it deep within her soul. This was only the beginning. With breath hitting the back of her throat, she stepped closer to the crowd and declared, "This community must not give up. Let us organize. Let us make our voices heard beyond this cafe. We are strong, and we will not be silenced." A surge of claps and cheers erupted once more, signaling their readiness to rise together. And deep inside, a new question flickered. How far would they go to fight for what was right? The atmosphere inside the cafe crackled with energy as Emma's voice hung in the air, resonating with hope and defiance. People leaned forward, their faces lit with a mixture of admiration and determination. It was more than just words. It was a rallying cry that stirred something deep within each of them. She scanned the crowd, meeting the gaze of every familiar face, some she had known for years, their stories interwoven with hers, and others who had just begun to learn about the fight. The older gentleman in the corner, who always ordered a black coffee and would share tales of better days, smiled at her with a gentleness that softened her heart. The barista, Amy, standing tall behind the counter, nodded vigorously, her chin raised in solidarity. Emma felt grounded by their presence, but still, the shadow of doubt loomed heavy. Could they really make a difference? It was easy for her to shout words of defiance, but the stark reality lingered. She remembered the boardroom, the ivory towers where decisions were made so far from the gritty realities of their lives. "Let us set up meetings. We can gather stories, share our experiences," yelled Marcus, breaking through her thoughts. His voice cut the air like a beacon, igniting the crowd. "We know why this matters." "Exactly," Emma chimed in, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "We'll use social media, create petitions, anything to let them know our voice is loud and clear. We will not fade away." She could see people nodding, fire blazing in their eyes. Just then, a lithe woman stepped forward. Emma recognized her. Margie, a local teacher with a passion for equity in education. "What if we reach out to other neighborhoods? They might be facing similar issues. We can unite forces." The suggestion was met with a roar of approval. Emma's heart raced. This was real, this was happening. If they pooled their resources, if they stood together not just as patrons of the cafe, but as a united community demanding change, they could create something powerful. The thought sent a trembling wave of excitement through her. But as elation filled the room, a bead of anxiety trickled down her spine. What if other neighborhoods didn't join them? What if they weren't enough? The thought threatened to unravel her newfound hope. As if sensing her turmoil, Marcus leaned closer. "Let us believe in what we're capable of. Once we start sharing our voices, we'll gather a movement beyond what we can imagine. No matter how long it takes, we'll keep pushing." With those words, Emma recalled a moment from her childhood. Her grandfather's hands, worn and calloused, teaching her to plant seeds in the garden, how patience bore fruits and flowers. She took a deep breath, visualizing their community garden growing around them, blooming with stories, strength, and solidarity. Turning back to the cafe, she saw people brainstorming, whispering ideas, and sharing laughs. Emma felt the weight lift just a little. "Okay, so we're gathering stories. But let us also find out who's on the board, who we need to talk to. Let us put together a list so that when we reach out, we know exactly where we stand." Suddenly, a man from the back of the crowd raised his hand. "I've worked with a local journalist who could help us get the stories published. It might not just be this cafe but the whole community's voice that goes out there." Cheers erupted, and Emma felt waves of warmth envelop her. It was infectious, this movement that was born in the heart of coffee spills and quiet conversations. They were becoming a force, a tide lifting their spirits higher as plans unfolded. Doubt slipped through her fingers like sand, pushed aside by a growing commitment to each other. They were in this together, fighting for recognition and change. But just as they seemed to reach a point of unity, the cafe doors swung open, drawing gasps from the crowd. A group of well-dressed individuals strode in, their presence striking and foreboding against the backdrop of the vibrant cafe. Emma's heart raced again. Was this the board? Had they come to confront the rising tide of voices? She exchanged anxious glances with Marcus, their earlier courage dimmed by uncertainty. What would happen next? All of a sudden, It felt like they were standing on a precipice, teetering between hope and the unknown. The newcomers paused, taking in the café's lively atmosphere. Their polished shoes shone under the soft lights as they surveyed the sea of determined faces. The murmurs in the crowd faded to a tense hush. Emma felt her palms grow clammy, a seed of doubt resprouting in her mind. "Stay strong," Marcus whispered, his hand resting on her shoulder for reassurance. He understood her fear, the weight of potential disappointment hanging thick in the air. As the first of the newcomers approached the front, Emma's heart raced. A tall man with slicked back hair and an expensive suit stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Hello everyone," he said, his voice smooth yet commanding. "I'm Jack Thompson. We've been made aware of some concerns regarding our recent initiatives in the community." Emma's breath hitched. "Concerns?" she echoed, trying to steady her voice. She felt the energy shift, a mix of fear and hope coursing through the crowd. Jack continued, "We've heard about your campaign and the stories you wish to share. And we'd like to talk." A collective gasp filled the room, followed by a wave of whispers. Emma blinked, confusion etching across her face. Were they here to negotiate? Talk? Marcus interjected. "About what?" "The minutes of each meeting you casually scheduled where our voices were never included?" The sentiment in the café swelled. People leaned forward in their seats, various emotions flickering through the crowd. Jack raised his hands as if to calm the brewing storm. "I get it. It's essential for us to reconcile these issues. We want to hear your stories, to better understand your perspective." His tone shifted, vulnerability creeping in. "It's time for accountability. It's time to listen." From the corner, Margie spoke up, her fists clenched but her resolve unwavering. "You've had your eyes closed for too long. How do we know this isn't just a PR stunt?" Jack met her gaze without flinching. "I can't blame you for being skeptical. I used to believe that what we did was for the greater good. But I've discovered some uncomfortable truths about our practices, and the biases that have hurt communities like yours." A heavy silence fell, emotions mingling with tentative disbelief. Could it be? Emma's mind raced back to the moments spent in this café, laughter, tears, shared struggles. They had cultivated this space through love, and now it seemed someone was finally recognizing its value. "What does that mean, Jack?" she asked, voice steady, heart pounding. "What are you really saying?" Jack's shoulders relaxed as he glanced around the room, absorbing the hope and pain in their eyes. "I'm saying that we might have to cancel our impending deal worth $4.5 billion if it means we can do this right. I want to build a new foundation, one that actually reflects your needs." The words hung in the air, striking a chord deep within the group. Whispers of disbelief swirled, then grew into a roar of excitement. Emma shook her head, caught between fear and exhilaration. What was happening? This was more than a conversation. It was a stepping stone to something bigger. "Are you willing to put your resources on the line?" A voice from the audience called out, demanding clarity. "Yes," Jack replied, his earnestness visible. "I believe change starts with us, with you. What's needed is courage to take that leap." The café erupted in cheers, those earlier doubts now morphing into a chorus of possibility and hope. Emma felt the tension that had gripped her release like the last drops of rain after a storm. But beneath the cheers, a nagging question remained. Was this genuine? Would their voices truly matter? Or was this just another fleeting moment of light? As the celebration swept through the café, Emma's heart raced again, not just with hope, but with dread. Change was never easy. It demanded sacrifices and hard truths. What if they pushed for this new beginning only to be met with obstacles they couldn't foresee? Emma turned to Marcus, eyes wide. "Are we ready for this?" she whispered, the weight of the moment settling around them. And in that instant, they stood on the brink of something monumental, the future uncertain yet shimmering with promise. Would they be able to break down the walls that had been built to keep them apart? The atmosphere in the café felt electric, a mix of joy and trepidation swirling through the air like confetti from a celebration that hadn't quite finished. The cheers slowly began to fade, replaced by the hushed voices of disbelief that permeated the space. As Emma lingered in the euphoria, her heart still thudded against her chest, each beat echoing her uncertainty. People from all corners of the room were engaging in animated discussions, excitement crackling like static electricity. Emma caught snippets of conversations, some expressing newfound hope, while others still fought against their skepticism. With every word she absorbed, the weight of the moment began to feel almost tangible. "Can we trust him?" came a voice behind her. Lisa, a familiar face whose eyes were wide with apprehension. "What if he's just saying things to calm us down?" Emma turned to face her. "I don't know, Lisa. But what if he really wants to understand? This is our chance to share our side. That's a huge risk. What if he goes back on his word?" A lump formed in Emma's throat. She understood the fear a history of empty promises haunted their community. But something in Jack's expression, a hint of sincerity, made her want to believe. "But if we don't take that chance, what do we have left?" Emma replied, her voice steadying. "We have to stand up for ourselves to be heard. Or this moment will pass us by and nothing will change." Marcus rejoined them, his brows furrowed with thought. "Emma has a point, Lisa. Change requires risk even if it terrifies us." He glanced at Jack, now engaged in discussion with Margie and a few others. Jack seemed genuinely invested, listening intently to their concerns. "Look at him. He's here. It's a start." As she watched Jack nod and respond with thoughtful empathy, Emma's heart stirred with an almost overwhelming desire for progress. This was a pivotal moment for their community. They had often felt invisible, muted by the powerful forces that shaped their lives. But here was a chance to be heard, to bring their stories to the forefront. The café suddenly felt stifling, as if the walls were closing in with the weight of expectations. Emma could see Jack as an agent of change, but would that change weave into reality? Her thoughts spun in circles, caught between hope and the fear of being let down again. Then, an unexpected voice broke her reverie. "What do we do next?" Margie's assertive tone buzzed with the energy of a rising tide, snapping Emma back to the present. "We can't just cheer and hope for the best. We need to organize, to formulate our thoughts before we approach Jack again." The crowd began to ripple with consensus, murmurs of agreement blending seamlessly. Ideas bounced between tables, plans forming like fireflies flickering to life in the growing dusk. There was an urgency in the air, the need to seize this moment. Emma felt a fierce burst of courage. "Let us gather our stories. We need to prepare what we want to say. Raw needs real struggles. We'll curate our narrative together." A ripple of excitement spread like wildfire through the room. Heads nodded, voices raised in agreement. But almost as quickly as the excitement surged, a pulse of worry crept back in. Could they truly convey the depth of their experiences? Would their truths resonate enough to withstand the industrial machinery they were challenging? With her heart racing, Emma scanned the room. The faces all brimmed with a mix of determination and uncertainty. They were ready to take the leap. But so many questions swirled in the back of her mind, binding her heart in a knot. "Okay," Emma said, calming herself and raising her voice. "Let us meet tomorrow, same time. We'll make sure we're united. No one gets left behind." Cheers erupted again, mingling hope with steely resolve. But within that clamor, Emma felt a seed of doubt cling to her, whispering to her soul, what if they were not enough? As the evening stretched on, Emma stood amidst the crowd, her mind racing ahead, contemplating what was required to make their dreams take root. Little did she know the response they received the next day would test their resolve in ways they couldn't foresee. Would they be prepared to face the pushback that came with asking for true change? The next day dawned, crisp with a coolness that felt like a fresh start. Emma arrived at the café early, the sun spilling its golden light through the glass windows, illuminating the scattered tables in warm hues. She could feel the shift in energy, a palpable buzz of anticipation hanging in the air. Today was supposed to be the day they would pool their stories, their truths, and prepare to confront the tides of overwhelming odds. As the minutes ticked by, Emma noticed the first few faces trickling in, friends and neighbors she had known for years. They greeted her with nervous smiles, the tension in their shoulders barely concealed. When Marcus arrived, he let out a small chuckle, clearly trying to lighten the mood. "Well, we're here. That's a start, right?" "Exactly," Emma replied, forcing a grin despite the tightness in her chest. Soon the café began to fill with voices, blending into a symphony of hope and anxiety. Lisa found her way to Emma, her brow still knit with concern. "Have you heard anything more about Jack?" Emma shook her head. "Just the same promise. But he's not the only one who needs to change, right? We all need to step up." The air felt electric again. But this time not from exhilaration, rather. The weight of anxious anticipation pressed heavily on them. Emma glanced around and noticed people clutching papers, notes scrawled with thoughts and experiences they were ready to share. Every story was a thread in a larger tapestry, each speaking of struggles, dreams, and resilience. Margie stood, her presence commanding. "All right, everyone. Let us get started. We're here to organize and share." She pinned the room with her gaze, as if drawing strength from every individual present. Emma's heart raced. She was supposed to speak soon. Would she be able to find the right words? One by one, people began sharing their stories. A mother recounted the struggle of balancing work and caring for her children. A factory worker spoke about long hours, unfair treatment, yet still finding time to volunteer in the community. Each story resonated deeply, blending into a fabric of shared hardship and endless hope. But then a shift occurred. A newcomer stood up, someone Emma hadn't seen before, with a face hardened by years of reflection. "I've listened to this for long enough," he said, his voice gruff. "What's the point of all this? They won't listen to us. They never do." A heaviness settled in the room, and a chorus of murmurs surged with apprehension. Emma felt her heart sink. Was this a foreshadow of what lay ahead? But Margie stepped forward, her voice steadier than before. "They have to listen because we deserve to be heard." A spark ignited in Emma. She stood up, every eye turning in her direction. "Look, I know we worry about not being enough, but each of us here is a part of something bigger. If we come together, we can amplify our voices. We are not alone." The tentative energy began to shift towards something more potent to resolve, an understanding that their collective experience was their strength. Yet just as the tide seemed to turn, the cafe door swung open with force, and Jack strode in, his expression tight, urgency evident in his posture. "We need to talk," he said, his voice cutting through the air like a knife. Emma felt a shiver of uncertainty ripple through her. She had hoped he would embrace their efforts, but the tension in Jack's demeanor suggested otherwise. "What's wrong?" Emma asked, her heart thumping louder. Jack's eyes scanned the room, locking onto Emma's. "It's about yesterday. There are consequences to what I've promised." A hush fell over the crowd, anticipation hanging as thick as fog. Emma held her breath, heart racing as a slate of questions flooded her mind. What could possibly be at stake? "Tell us," she urged, voice trembling yet determined. Jack took a breath, his response hovering on the edge of revelation. As the cafe filled with anxious whispers, the reality began to sink in. What were they really up against? And what would happen next would change everything. Jack took a deep breath, the weight of his next words pressing heavily against the air in the cafe. "I don't think you all understand how serious things have become. The company is moving forward with plans that could destroy everything we've worked for." Emma's stomach dropped. Her mind raced with possibilities. "What are you saying?" "We've been trying to work together to organize." Jack's expression softened, but the tension didn't leave his voice. "I'm saying they're about to implement budget cuts that will affect all of us. Layoffs. I overheard them talking about it after yesterday's meeting." Gasps filled the room. Emma could feel the collective fear swell like a dark wave, threatening to drown their hopeful resolve. "How do you know?" someone shouted from the back. "I'm still in the loop," Jack replied, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. "But I don't know how long that'll last. They're tightening the reins." Emma stepped closer to him, her heart pounding. "But we can fight this, can't we? We can make our voices heard. If we rally together." "No," Jack interrupted, the frustration clear in his voice. "Do you think they'll care? The decisions are already made. And if we push back too hard, they'll make an example out of someone. My job, I can't risk it, and neither can you." A murmur of dissent rippled through the crowd. Emma felt a mix of anger and sadness. Here they were, ready to fight, and yet fear gripped their hearts like barbed wire. "You don't understand the power of our stories," she said. "This is bigger than all of us." Marcus piped up, his face a mix of confusion and defiance. "So you're saying we just give up?" "That's not the answer." "Not giving up," Jack replied wearily, "but knowing when to pick your battles. You all have families to think about. I can't let you walk into this without knowing the risks." Margie's voice broke through the escalating tension. "We can't let fear dictate our actions. If what Jack is saying is true, then it's even more reason to be united." They need to see our strength. But how? Another voice called out, desperation creeping in. This feels hopeless. Emma took a deep breath. It may feel hopeless now, but being together, sharing our stories gives us a chance. We can contact the media. Rally the community to support us. Jack shook his head, his brow furrowed. And then what? Have them label you as troublemakers? You think that gives anyone power? It can tear us apart before it begins. As Jack spoke, Emma felt the room begin to shrink. The energy that had built was fading. She clasped her hands tight, grounding herself amidst the chaos around her. Each denial, each caution, felt like poison in her resolve. I want to fight, Emma said, her voice strong amidst the uncertainty. I want to make a difference. But midway through her sentence, Jack's phone buzzed violently in his pocket, breaking the tense air like a pin dropping in silence. He pulled it out, glancing at the screen before his expression twisted with urgency. They're calling me in, he said, panic flickering across his face. Who? Emma cried. What do you mean? They're not just calling me, they're here. The cafe door swung open again, this time crashing against the wall, revealing two men in suits, their expressions serious and steely. Emma's blood ran cold. Jack, come with us, one of them commanded, stepping inside. We need to discuss your loyalty to the company. Jack glanced back at Emma, his face a storm of conflict. Don't follow me, he whispered as he reluctantly stepped forward. Her heart raced. Was this the end of their fight before it had even begun? And worse, what would happen to Jack for choosing to care? As the door slammed behind them, the cafe fell into a suffocating silence. Emma's gaze swept over the crowd, each face echoing her own struggle, their collective breath held tight with fear and uncertainty. What were they willing to lose for a chance at change? A voice inside her whispered everything. And in that moment, she understood that the true battle had just begun. Emma's heart pounded in the taut silence that engulfed the maple bean. She could feel eyes glued on her, searching for guidance in the storm of uncertainty. Jack's departure left a chasm of fear. It was no longer just about the board's decision or a potential acquisition. It became personal, a fight against systemic oppression and ignorance that threatened to swallow their community whole. Listen, Emma exclaimed, her voice now sharp as a knife against the gathering tension. We're not done. Jack may be facing his own fears right now, but we have each other. This is the moment we must stand stronger than ever. She felt her breath quickening, fueled by the anxious hope that lingered on the horizon. Suddenly, a voice broke through, a young barista named Amy, who stood behind the counter, hands trembling, face lit with determination. What if we don't just share our stories with the board or Jack, but with everyone? We need to reach out beyond the cafe walls. Her idea ignited a spark in the room. Yes, Emma cried, feeling that wave of boldness swell among them. If we truly want our voices to be heard, we need a platform. Let's gather stories from our neighbors, friends, anyone willing to share how this affects them. A chorus of affirmations erupted, each shout driving them further into the momentum Emma desperately needed. They began to brainstorm ways to gather their experiences, social media campaigns, community meetups, and even collaborating with local organizations that focused on equity and justice. Time passed swiftly, each moment filled with anticipation that blossomed alongside their plan. They wrote down stories, hopes, fears, every tear-streaked truth woven together. The mood shifted, whispers of despair giving way to a symphony of resolve. They were united, like a tapestry of colors blending to create an indomitable force. That night, as the cafe emptied with promising energy, Emma stood alone for a moment, recalling her childhood. Grandfather showed me that every seed sown takes time to bloom, she murmured, steeling herself for the challenges ahead. As the sun lowered, casting warm rays through the window, she quietly vowed to protect the spirit of their movement. The next days turned into weeks, and the city began to buzz with their stories. Social media exploded with posts featuring snippets of personal tales that captured the heart of their struggle. The hashtag Voices of Maple Bean went viral, resonating with so many who faced the same bias and discrimination echoing beyond their quaint town. News outlets took notice. Articles flooded in as reporters sought to dig deeper into the story of a small cafe, igniting a community to stir against corporate greed. Emma felt an unexpected surge of pride in every interview, every broadcast. They were reaching people far and wide, and their unity emboldened others to share their experiences. But still, Emma worried. The board might not relent easily. Pushback was expected. The tension danced like electric currents in her gut. She had to keep the momentum alive, rallying everyone into action. Then the evening they had anxiously awaited arrived, the scheduled meeting with Jack and the board members who now wanted to hear their voices. The cafe buzzed with nervous excitement as Emma prepared her speech. Everyone in the room radiated a collective energy, wrapped in hope and justified anger. As the door swung open, Marcus' hand clasped Emma's, his eyes shining. "We're ready. Tell them everything," he encouraged. Jack stepped in. His expression mingled with relief and concern. "I'm here and I want to help. I realize now that accountability starts with me," he announced, signaling a new willingness that deepened the room's already electric atmosphere. Together, they faced the board, wealthy executives seated like judges in a courtroom, while Emma's community stood for justice. Emma led them, bolstered by the warmth of shared stories, the photographs of real lives pinned beside her on boards. "It's not just about a startup and a deal," she declared, her voice steady and strong. "It's about respect for every person in our community, and making sure no one's story is silenced again. We deserve dignity." Her words resonated deeply, wrapping around their audience like an embrace. One by one, they showed up, voices layered together for a resonant impact. The board had come looking to settle matters with an iron grip, yet they found themselves wrestling with the heart and soul of a community too vibrant to gain the upper hand. In the end, the pressure proved too great. Laughter erupted, mingled with tears of joy in that town square as news swept in. The board decided to reassess the project entirely, promising to invest resources into community-led initiatives, making true strides towards equitable practices. Cheers roared in celebration, Emma's heart soaring as the weight of pending fear dissipated into the night. Around her, the community embraced one another, tears glistening with relief. This was their transformation, a collective journey that painted the canvas of hope across their small town. Emma realized in that moment, they had won not just this fight, but something more profound: the power of standing together, giving each other strength. As she looked around at the faces of her friends, neighbors, and family, she felt a reassuring warmth blossom in her heart. They had risen above the fear. They had transformed into advocates, warriors for what was right, and no one would take that away from them ever again. Their story, the Maple Bean's story, was alive, waiting to inspire every corner of the world. This change was here to stay, and you can be part of this incredible journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, because you need to be with us for the moments that matter. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and let the world see that you stand for justice. Comment below your reactions, how this story moved you, and what change looks like for you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the word. This is the moment to show your support, because true fans understand the importance of making their voices heard.